Good afternoon and welcome to the Charles William Press Hall. Like you heard from Director Condolet, we have very serious and respectable officials of government here to brief you on different issues from different sectors. Of course, key among them is the Ministry of Finance, led by the acting minister, Mr. Myers, the acting Inspector General of Police is also here, as well as the acting boss of the LDEA. I'm told Wyatt is supposed to be here, I don't see them yet. So we've got a full house, and I wouldn't want to take much of the time because I want these distinguished officials to be able to exhaust what they came for. But let me just talk about a few issues before I invite them. As you all may be aware, the National Legislature has been on their break. But the President, His Excellency President Waka, has already issued a proclamation calling them back for a special section. That section is set to commence this Thursday and will run until September 19. It is called in response to critical national issues, including the proposed recast budget that requires immediate attention and that cannot be kept waiting until the regular legislative session to resume in October. The proclamation that was issued is in accordance with Article 32B of the Liberian Constitution, which grants the President the authority to extend or call a special section of the legislature upon receiving a certificate signed by at least 1/4 of the total membership of each chamber of the House and Senate. That certificate has been duly received by the President, which has now prompted the extraordinary section of the legislature. The President has emphasized the importance of this section because matters of national interest and those that concern the welfare of the people will always be prioritized by the government. There are about 3 weeks that is expected to be used will provide an opportunity for the legislature to act on key concerns affecting the national fiscal stability and the development agenda. And so, just so you know, the legislature will be back beginning this coming Thursday. The government started the anti-corruption drive. It is something that we take very seriously. And we said here over and over at the press conference that no amount of threat about resistance, no amount of description as to how people see and call it, make us to change course. And it is not something that, say, President Waka or the executive is trying to impose. We do have statutory institutions of government, like the LACC, the GSC, the IAA, all of the institutions that are supposed to play key roles as far as accountability is concerned. All we're doing is to bring them the space and the independence to do their work. And they've been proceeding very well. Of course, as you all may know recently, the LACC, having done some background investigation concerning the supplementary payroll at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, invited the former minister to answer some questions as it relates to what they believe are some issues concerning that situation. We know that he appeared, but then we've just learned as a government that after that appearance, he has taken flight to the High Court and has requested the court to prohibit the investigation that was commenced. It is important for you to know some of the things that were being investigated. There were allegations of payroll departing and acts of corruption resulting from salary payment affecting the supplementary payroll containing 728 names at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. The supplementary payroll was allegedly created outside of the framework of the Civil Service Agency, and that is according to the LACC. In their communication with Mr. McGay, they asserted that details of the allegation revealed that the supplementary payroll was created under the instructions of the former minister, and that the process was marred by irregularities amounting to payroll partnering, administrative malpractice, and act of corruption, among others. He was cited by the LACC on August the 21st. He honored the invitation. However, we've learned that he has filed a petition for an alternative rate of prohibition before the Honorable Supreme Court, among other things, to inhibit, restrain, and prohibit the LACC from proceeding with their investigations against him. His principal argument is that he was a principal assistant to the former president at the time of the alleged corruption act, and that if there were acts of corruption surrounding the payroll pardon process that the LACC is investigating, those acts were committed at the behest of the former president. And according to him, since the former president is constitutionally immune from prosecution, he, as a principal assistant to the then president who acted on the instruction of the president, is immune from any kind of investigation, whatever, as long as the president cannot be investigated. He too, as principal assistant, should not be investigated. We are told that is the argument. His argument also goes to the extent to say that he acted on the orders of the president, who is constitutionally immune, and therefore he too is. Well, we want to state that we will respect the process that has unfolded since he went to the court. We commend him for doing so. Maybe if we were taking everything to the court, the situation we experienced the other day in Sinco would never have been experienced. So we commend him for that. And that while we allow the legal process to take place as a government, we have our own thought process. And that we believe that there is no immunity for unlawful acts, especially for agents who claim to act on behalf of their principals. I mean, assuming President Bouaga just called me and said, go and shoot Devil's War. I know that shooting Devil's War and killing him is a crime. It's an act that is unlawful. Should I kill him and come back and say, I did it upon the instruction of President Bouaga and therefore I should be immune from persecution? The reasoning doesn't look okay to us. So we believe that he does not have the entitlement that he's claiming unto himself. When you are an officer or agent of the state, you are simply under obligation to obey lawful orders. When an order is unlawful, you have a legal duty to refrain because your conduct would not be protected by law. So the Ministry of Justice, the LACC and the court will be left to absorb the state of this case, and we are hoping that in the end, somebody will be held accountable. I mean, let's look at the reasoning as I lay this issue to rest. There's an accusation against you. You believe you are innocent. And the only way that can be used to establish that you are an innocent person is to allow the law to take its course. But you say, no, don't do no investigation, leave it. Because I was protected from doing what I did. In our thinking as a government, it is a kind of admission of guilt In other words, you say, I did this thing, but I did it upon the instruction of this person. And sometimes as a country, we are quick to forget. You all follow the Brandon Samuka situation. There's a lot of noise about that, as to whether what he did was ordered by the former president, and he was held accountable. He won an election. He should have been seated. His victory was reversed because of what he was reported to have done. Of course, some people say upon the orders of the person who was his boss then. And the same people who executed those things come back today and they want to turn the wheel around. When it suits you, it's okay. So we believe that the right thing will be done. Our team will go to the Supreme Court as requested, and the necessary arguments will be raised, and we'll see where we'll go from there. But what it tells us is that someone somewhere, guilty, afraid, does not want to be held accountable, and they say, oh, court, stop them from investigating me. We're not sure that's how it works. And as a government and as a team, we are not sure that we're allowed to work that way, but again, the court will decide, because we all should respect the court, particularly the Supreme Court. The next and maybe final issue I want to talk about is what many of you called me about over the weekend, and I said if we should have something to say about it, say at the press conference. And you all wanted to know what the government thinks about the fact that the former president wrote ECOWAS, basically complaining about different issues. We know there was an issue in the DEA and police officials are here, they're going to talk about it in a small town community. I'm sure when they come out, they will give you a clear picture as to what happened. They've said it before, but you will hear more of that. And so, relying on that incident, the former president writes, accusing police of invading or raiding his headquarters. I'm not sure that what happened. They are here, they will explain. Initially, some of the party officials were saying people died. I expected that you journalists would have held them to account for the things they say. When a human being dies, the body does not turn to spirit. You will see the body. But these are all part of the strategy to make this place to look ungovernable, to spread lies and falsehood, so that it excites or incites people to do the wrong thing. Maybe if they chosen that part of writing the very letter from the beginning, we would not have seen what we saw happening. And that letter goes on to talk about other things, targeting people in civil service, putting them down. You want to make the CDC to disappear. You want to break the party down. The president that was elected has a huge job to do, because this country was almost non-existent in the last 6 years. To put it back together requires full attention. And no one who wants to reverse the kind of situation we find ourselves in will be wasting their time running behind a political party. They got so much to do. So those kinds of loose and reckless allegations, they're not things that we're allowed to just pass through, because we have an obligation to ensure that the public is not misinformed. If police did not raid your compound and you say they did it, we have an obligation to come and say you lied. If nobody died in a particular fracas and you say somebody died, we have to come and say you lied. If people that you appointed in these anti-graft institutions who are doing their work, you try to portray them as agents of a group of leaders who you say want to wish on you and we know they are lying, we'll say you lying. But there's one other positive side of it. At least they were right. Trying to recognize an institution that they have disrespected so much during the last 6 years they were in office. when Liberian citizens who felt aggrieved and offended by their actions went to the very ECOWAS through some of their institutions. And they said, this is what you've done wrong, correct it. Did they act? Was Cabinet Janet paid as ruled by the ECOWAS court? Was Nancy Doe paid as ruled by the ECOWAS court? It is the same ECOWAS, so much so disrespected in 6 years, that you not expect to be an authority that you can go to. It's good. And see, the difference is, we are a responsible member of the Committee of Nations, including our affiliation with ECOWAS. So when people take redress to ECOWAS, and they adjudicate those concerns and they come back to us with recommendations, unlike you, we listen. So it's a good thing that you now see ECOWAS as an entity you are supposed to respect, when you didn't respect them yesterday. This attempt to create a kind of semblance of this country being a lawless state will not suffice. And you can hear all you want. And we can't say the truth. They don't have the intellectual capacity to discuss the issues. What do? They go and insult. That's normal for some of us now. If you can insult the president of the country and everybody else, who cares about your insult to an individual like us? We're not in an insult battle with you. We're here to inform the Liberian people about happenings in the country, because that is the responsibility for the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. And with me, as the supreme leader, the commandant of this place, supported by all these great men and women, we not falter in our responsibility. We keep our charge, we keep it effectively. We're not propagandists. I've said when I went for confirmation hearing, when I come to the Ministry of Information, I will come to communicate, because government should not be involved in propaganda. We just got to be factual. Be consistent with that. And if you think the strategy is to manufacture lies 24/7, you have a team that will take charge of that 24/7.